So, did you forget your kit on purpose? Asked Joe. Mr. Bruce had locked up the changing rooms by the time Joe and Bob had finished their cross-country run. Well, cross-country walk. They stood outside the grey concrete building, Bob shivering in his pants. They'd already been to find the school secretary, but there was absolutely no one left in the whole place. Well, apart from the caretaker, who didn't seem to speak English, or any other language for that matter. No, replied Bob, a little hurt at the suggestion. I may not be the fastest runner, but I'm not that much of a coward. They trudged to the school grounds, Joe in his singlet and shorts and Bob in his vest and pants. They looked like two little rejects. So who took it? Said Bob. I don't know. It might be the Grubs. They're the school bullies. The Grubs? Yeah, they're twins. Oh, said Joe, I haven't met them yet. You will, replied Bob dolefully. You know, I really feel bad about taking your birthday money off you. You don't have to, said Joe, it's fine. But $50 is a lot of money, Bob protested. $50 was not a lot of money to the Spuds. Here are a few things that Joe and his dad would do with $50. Light them instead of bits of old paper to get the braai going. Keep a pad of them by the telephone and use them as post-it notes. Line the hamster cage with handfuls of them and then throw them out after a week when they began to smell like hamster. Let the hamster use it as a toilet, filter coffee through them, blow their noses on them, spit chewed up chewing gum into them, make paper aeroplanes out of them, wallpaper the downstairs toilet with them. I never asked. What does your dad do? Joe panicked for a moment. He makes toilet rolls, he said, only lying a bit. Toilet rolls, said Bob. He could hardly suppress his smile. Yes, said Joe defiantly, he makes toilet rolls. Bob stopped smiling. That doesn't sound like it pays all that well. Joe winced. It doesn't. Then I guess your dad would have to save for weeks to give you $50. Here you go. Bob carefully handed the now slightly crumpled $50 note back to Joe. No, you keep it, protested Joe. Bob pressed the note into Joe's hand. It's your birthday money. You keep it. Joe smiled uncertainly and closed his hand over the money. Thank you, Bob. So what does your dad do? My dad died last year. They continued walking in silence for a moment. All Joe could hear was the sound of his heart beating. He couldn't think of anything to say. All he knew was that he felt awful for his new friend. Then he remembered that when someone died, people sometimes said, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, he said. It's not your fault, said Bob. Well, I'm sorry he died. I'm sorry too. How did he, cancer. It was really scary. He just got more and more ill, and then one day they took me out of school and I went to the hospital. We sat by his bed for ages and you could hear his breath, and then the sound stopped. I ran outside to get the nurse and she came in and said he's gone. It was just me and my mum now. What does your mum do? She works at Tesco on the checkout. That's where she met my dad. He would shop on Saturday mornings. He used to joke that he only came in for a pint of milk, but he left with a wife. It sounds like he was funny, said Joe. He was, said Bob, smiling. Mum's got another job too. She's a cleaner at an old people's home in the evenings, just to make ends meet. Wow, said Joe. Doesn't she get tired? Yeah, said Bob. So I do a lot of the cleaning and stuff. Joe really felt sorry for Bob. Since he was 8, Joe had never had to do anything at home. There was always the butler or the maid or the gardener or the chauffeur or whoever to do everything. He took the note out of his pocket. If there was one person who needed the money more than him, it was Bob. Please, Bob, keep the $50. No, I don't want to. I'd feel bad. Well, at least let me buy you some chocolate. You got a deal, said Bob. Let's go to Raj. Ding! No, that's not your doorbell. No need to get up. It's the sound of the bell tinkling at Raj's shop as Bob and Joe opened the door. Ah, Bob, my favorite customer, said Raj. Welcome, welcome. Raj ran the local newsagent's shop. All the local kids adored him. He was like the funny uncle you always wished you had. And even better than that, he sold sweets. "Hi, Raj," said Bob. "This is Joe." "Hello, Joe," exclaimed Raj. "Two fat boys in my shop at one time. The Lord must be smiling on me today. Why have you both got so little on?" "We came straight from cross-country running, Raj," explained Bob. "Fantastic. How did you do?" "First and second," replied Bob. "That's wonderful," explained Raj. "Blast," finished Bob. "That's not so good. But I imagine you boys must be hungry after all that exercise. How can I help you today?" "We'd like to buy some chocolate," said Joe. "Well, you've come to the right place. I have the finest selection of chocolate bars in this parade," Raj announced triumphantly. Considering the only other shops in the parade were a laundrette and long since closed florist, that wasn't saying much, but the boys let it pass. Now, one thing Joe knew for certain was that chocolate didn't have to be expensive to taste nice. In fact, after a few years of gorging themselves on the finest chocolates from Belgium or Switzerland, he and his dad realized that they weren't half as delicious as a Yorkie or a bag of minstrels, or for the true connoisseur, a double-decker. "Well, let me know if I can help you, gentlemen," said the news agent. The stock in Raj's shop was haphazardly laid out. Why was a car magazine next to the Tipex? If you couldn't find the jelly tots, it was entirely possible it might be hiding under a copy of The Sun from 1982. And did the post-it notes really have to be in the freezer? However, local people kept coming to the shop because they loved Raj, and he loved his customers too, particularly Bob. Bob was one of his absolute best customers. "We are happy to browse, thanks," replied Bob. He was studying the rows and rows of confectionery, looking for something special. And today, money wasn't a problem. Joe had a $50 note in his pocket. They could even afford one of Raj's out-of-date Easter eggs. "The Whispers are very good today, young sirs. Fresh in the morning," ventured Raj. "We are just looking, thank you," replied Bob. "The Cadbury's cream eggs are in season," suggested the news agent. "Thank you," said Joe politely, smiling. "Just to say, gentlemen, I'm here to help," said Raj. "If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask." "We will," said Joe. There was a brief moment of silence. "Just to let you know, the flake is off today, sirs," continued Raj. "I should have said. A problem with the supplier, but I should have them back on sale tomorrow." "Thanks for letting us know," said Bob. He and Joe shared a look. They were beginning to wish the news agent would let them shop in peace. "I can recommend a Ripple. I had one earlier, and they are exquisite at the moment." Joe nodded politely. "I'll leave you alone to make up your own mind. As I say, I'm here to help." "Can I have one of these?" said Bob, lifting up a giant bar of Cadbury's Dairy Milk to show Joe. "Of course you can," Joe laughed. "An excellent choice, gentlemen. I have those on special offer today. Buy 10, get one free," said Raj. "I think we just need one right now," Raj said Bob. "Buy 5, get half one free?" "No, thanks. How much is it?" $3.20, please." Joe took out his $50 note. Raj looked at it in wonder. "Oh my! I have never seen one of those before. You must be a very rich young man." "Not at all," said Joe. "His dad gave it to him for his birthday," chimed in Bob. "Lucky boy," said Raj. He peered at Joe. "You know, you look familiar, young man." "Do I?" replied Joe nervously. "Yes, I'm sure I've seen you somewhere before." Raj tapped his chin as he thought. Bob stared at him, baffled. "Yes," said Raj eventually. "Only the other day I saw a picture of you in a magazine." "I doubt it," Raj scoffed Bob. "His dad makes toilet rolls." "That's it," exclaimed Raj. He riffled through a pile of old newspapers and pulled out the Sunday Times Rich List. Joe started to panic. "I've got to go." The news agent flicked through the pages. "There you are," Raj indicated a photograph of Joe sitting awkwardly on the front of his Formula One racing car, then read aloud from the magazine. Britain's richest children, Number 1, Joe Spud, aged 12, bum fresh air, estimated worth 10 billion. A large lump of chocolate dropped from Bob's mouth onto the floor. 10 billion? No way have I got 10 billion, protested Joe. The press always exaggerates. I've got 8 billion at the most, and I won't even get most of it till I'm older. That's still a lot of money, exclaimed Bob. Yes, I suppose it is. Why didn't you tell me? I thought we were friends. I'm sorry, stammered Joe. I just wanted to be normal, and it's so embarrassing being the son of a toilet roll billionaire. No. You should be proud of your dad, exclaimed Rudge. His story is an inspiration to all of us. A humble man who became a billionaire with one simple idea. Joe had never thought of his dad like that. Leonard Spud revolutionized the way we are wiping our bottoms forever, Rudge chuckled. Thanks, Raj. Now, please tell your father I have started using Bumfresh and I love it. My bottom has never been so sparkling. See you next time. The two boys walked along the street in silence. All you could hear was Bob sucking the chocolate from between his teeth. You lied to me. Well, I did tell you he worked with toilet rolls, said Joe uncomfortably. Yes, but I know. I'm sorry. It was Joe's first day at school and his secret was already out. Here, have the change, said Joe, reaching in his pocket for the two $20 notes. Bob looked crushed. I don't want your money. But I'm a billionaire, said Joe, and my dad's got squillions. I don't even know what that means, but I know it's loads. Just take it. Here, have this lot too. And he pulled out a roll of $50 notes. I don't want it, said Bob. Joe's face crinkled with incredulity. Why not? Because I don't care about your money. I just liked hanging out with you today. Joe smiled. And I liked hanging out with you. He coughed. Look, I really am sorry. It's just the kids at my old school used to bully me because I was the bumfresh boy. I just wanted to be a normal kid. I can understand that, said Bob. I mean it. It would be nice to start again. Yeah, said Joe. Bob stopped and held out his hand. I'm Bob, he said. Joe shook his hand. Joe Spud. No other secrets? No, said Joe, smiling. That's it. Good, said Bob, smiling too. You won't tell anyone at school, said Joe, about me being a billionaire? It's so embarrassing, especially when they found out how my dad became rich. Please? Not if you don't want me to. I don't. I really don't. Well, I won't then. Thanks. The two continued down the street. After a few paces, Joe couldn't wait any longer. He turned to Bob, who had already polished off half the massive bar of dairy milk. Can I have some chocolate then, he asked. Yes, of course. This is for us to share, said Bob, as he broke off his friend a tiny square of chocolate.